I'm the guy who just put some rigid lights on his 2020 Duramax, little light cubes on the front bumper. Want to see the install? You want to talk about it? Well, we're going to do that. So, quick little backstory with my install. Already owned the rigids, already was in the D2 driving series from a previous build, like this. Have way too many, need to justify their existence, and I also like a little something on the highway, but I wasn't wanting to plaster the huge row of stuff on the front bumper. The previous owner of their truck kind of dictated this install slightly. They had 2 holes already drilled when I got it, and then some other stuff that helped me out a little bit, but doesn't mean that it isn't difficult to do. So I actually used, I believe they're called threaded rivets. I'd have to look up what they are. But anyways, the tool looks like this. I bought stainless ones that thread on, go in the pre-existing hole, crimp, or I guess rivet, and then you are able to fasten a 1/4 20 fastener underneath, like this. So that's kind of like the mounting on the front bumper, and that's why it was dictated. Behind the grill on these trucks, this is a Duramax, there's a shutter system in front of the first set of radiators, or I guess the first radiator in the set of radiators that occupies the front of the truck. And I was just not interested in messing around with that. There's a lot of electronics in these new vehicles, which is why you might be coming to this video and you might be a little intimidated. But these Chevys are actually really easy. So let's keep going. All right, so going handheld here. The installation in the B-roll comes up, comes over. This was able to be fished from here down to there without removal of anything. I just used a fish stick. That's it. Yes, they're called fish sticks. Everything in this install is done in loom, because why wouldn't you do it in some sort of loom? And no super fancy mounting, because all we're doing is a single pico relay up here, heat shrink butt connectors and everything's under here. Pulled 1 fuse. Instead of using a fuse tap on this install, I had a pre-existing inline fuse, which just comes off a 3 point that was used previous. Comes for a clean install. The previous owner had pulled a headlight signal off of the Highbeam right out of the harness in here. So that's not my work, but I believe it was done professionally. And that's the nice thing, is a Highbeam, not a switched ground like some of the older Chevys, which I've run into issues before, exists right on this side, right by where you'll be doing your electrical for your Highbeam. So you can use your Highbeams, and in this setup, activate the lights, your Highbeams have to be on. Sleeved the 3 cables that go into the interior in a slightly different style loom, but it's still nicely protected. In here, it comes through the firewall alongside a pre-existing gasket. You can see it right there beside the hood cable or parking brake cable. Sorry, no parking brake on this truck, it's electric. Beside the hood cable, comes up, and then just pre-existing switch and button from the previous owner right into this piece of interior plastic. So it's a ground, or I almost called it a neutral there. Got your ground just for your indicator light for when it's on, and then your headlight high beam high, and then your relay coil hot on either side of this switch. So install's kind of as simple as that. Good cable management here. Not necessarily teaching how to use tie wraps and cable loom on this project. However, I will do a little drawing here of the electrical just so you can understand that more clearly, and then we'll talk about IntelliBeam and do some shots of what it looks like driving, obviously. All right, here we are in the middle of nowhere. Lights out, pitch black, highway. Turn the lights on. This is standard low beam. Standard high beam, and then with the rigids. A lot more ditch coverage with the rigids, but nothing too aggressive. So 12-volt line from the battery goes through our fuse we installed right to the pico or any 12-volt relay of this style, and then through the normally open contact of the relay, which this relay only has the one, splits to our 2 rigid lights, which also come back to chassis ground wherever convenient. We ran it all the way back because it's a little bit better, easier troubleshooting, more corrosion resistance on that open connection. And beside that, what triggers our pico relay is our Highbeam Trigger, as you call it. We just pull off of one of the headlight modules on what goes 12 volts high with the Highbeam. The reason I didn't show it too explicitly, and I don't care to, is because as general information, if I were to just say, hey, this 2020, this trim model has this type of specific headlights, it's this specific color. However, this is somewhat of a general video, so I just would encourage everyone, look up the correct one for your vehicle, for your trim level. Quite important, so we're not fucking people around here. And anyways, high level Highbeam Trigger, so 12 volts, to our combo switch, which sits right here in the dark. So if we turn my high beams on, nobody's around still, put a high beams on, I have it set up so there's no indication. So you flick the switch and we have our red indicator light along with our rigid still being on. That's how I chose to do it. You could just reverse which way these two are on the switch and it would indicate anytime the high beams are on, but not the way we wanted to go. When this is closed and we have Highbeam Trigger, we energize the coil of this electromechanical relay, turning the lights on. That's all of the electrical. Alright, real quick word about IntelliBeam in this truck, which is Chevy's proprietary auto high beam technology. You mess with the light output of the front of the vehicle at all, and the center windshield camera does not handle well. The technology basically doesn't work very well in Canada in the first place, and especially as soon as you add any additional light sources for it to interact with, yeah, it's just gonna stutter, turn on, turn off when it shouldn't, too early, too late. I tried it, played around with it. Obviously there's no adjustment on the user end that I'm aware of for the technology, so I don't recommend it anyways, especially for my use case on the highway and the vehicle traffic I'm around. So if you're considering auxiliary lights on a Chevy with it, just forget about it. Well, anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you got something from this video. Ask any questions, I'll do my best.